Bernie Sanders is taking the high road here because, quite frankly, there's really not much that he can do at this point. He's not going to create a giant floor fight regarding the DNC and their unfair practices. But at least he now has the proof and an acknowledgement that the DNC basically put their thumb on the scale, and they were basically trying to screw him. Well, not trying, they did screw him as far as the primaries were concerned. And they did theorize, if not put into practice, dirty tricks to use against him as far as the primaries were concerned. Now, as far as Debbie Wasserman Schultz, they need to remove her immediately. When I say immediately, they can let her sit around as far as the convention is concerned. She does not need to show her face anywhere near the convention. They've already stripped her of her ability to give a speech, and they've also stripped her of the right to gavel into session the convention. So she is basically the head of the DNC in name only. And what they need to do is to basically pull the plug on her and have her resign from her position. And I would take it one step further. She is running for re-election, and I've already supported the gentleman, I think his name is Tim Casanova or something like that. I'm not really sure. But anyway, anybody that was running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz was somebody that I really felt needed to be supported, because she is corrupt with a capital C. She's corrupt. But now, with WikiLeaks coming out and dropping all of those documents, there's no way that she can be supported to remain in that position. And it's so bad that Hillary Clinton is not even giving her any type of support. They basically have walked away from her, which is what the Clintons do. Anyway, here's Bernie Sanders regarding the whole WikiLeaks document dump and several other issues.
It's not the kind of thing you want happening days before your convention. This weekend, WikiLeaks released nearly 20,000 emails sent and received by members of the Democratic National Committee, some of which seem to confirm what a lot of people had suspected, that the DNC was playing favorites with Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. It appears WikiLeaks either stole these emails or got them from a source. Remember, the DNC was hacked a few months ago. Among the emails was one from the DNC's chief financial officer, Brad Marshall, that was looking ahead to the contests in Kentucky and West Virginia in early May. While not mentioning Sanders specifically by name, the email appeared to question Sanders' faith. He wrote this, quote, "Does he believe in a God? I think I read he is an atheist. This could make several points difference with my peeps. My Southern Baptist peeps would draw a big difference between a Jew and an atheist." Well, Sanders has long believed that DNC Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz was in Clinton's corner the whole campaign. Well, he joins me now. Senator Sanders, welcome back to Meet the Press. And I should note that you talked about your belief in God last fall in an interview, I think, with your hometown paper there. So I want to get that out of the way. But let me start with this question, questioning your faith. Brad Marshall apologized on Facebook. Has anyone apologized to you personally? And what is your response to this entire discussion?
Well, no, nobody has apologized to me. And as you just mentioned, this really does not come as a shock to me or my supporters. There is no question but the DNC was on Secretary Clinton's side from day one. We all know that. And I think, as I have said a long time ago, that the time is now for Debbie Wasserman Schultz to step aside, not only for these issues. We need a Democratic Party that is open, that is going to bring young people and working people into it, that is going to stand up and take on the big money interests and fight for working families. I don't think Debbie has been that type of leader. So I would hope, and I said this many months ago, that she would step aside. We would have new leadership.
Yeah, okay, just so that you know, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is a big supporter of the payday loan industry. Those are the gonifs, the usury guys that have been known to charge up to 300% interest on payday loans. And the Consumer Protection Bureau that Elizabeth Warren helped form has been going after them like crazy and has nailed them. What Debbie Wasserman Schultz is trying to do at this point is to delay implementation of rules and requirements that would basically not so much shut them down, but specifically knock down the amount of interest that they can charge and various other conditions. And again, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is supporting suspending enforcement of those rules. So you tell me if she's really for the little guy.
And do you think it needs to happen now, today, before the start of the convention? Would that help calm some of your supporters down?
Well, I think what is already happening is that it's clear she is not going to be speaking to the convention. That is the right thing. I think right now what we have got to focus on as Democrats is defeating perhaps the worst Republican candidate that I've seen in my lifetime. Donald Trump would be a disaster for this country. He must be defeated. We've got to elect Secretary Clinton who won every single issue. Fighting for the middle class on health care, on climate change, is a far, far superior candidate to Trump. That's where I think the focus has got to be.
Do you believe that the DNC's apparent favoritism cost you this race?
Well, I think there are a lot of reasons why one loses. We started off 50 points behind Secretary Clinton. We had the opposition of virtually the entire Democratic leadership in every state in this country. And by the way, in terms of media, we did not get the kind of media attention that somebody like a Donald Trump got, because media is not necessarily interested in the issues facing the middle class, more interested in attacks and personality. So I think there are a lot of reasons, but I will tell you this, Chuck, from the bottom of my heart, I am extraordinarily proud of the campaign that we ran, the issues that we raised, the fact that we got 13 million Americans to vote for a political revolution, people who know the economy is rigged in favor of big money, people who know that our middle class continues to decline and we have to go outside of establishment politics and economics, people who know that we need to reform a broken criminal justice system and we need comprehensive immigration reform. The people, what we did in our campaign is bring people together to say, you know what? This country, our government belongs to all of us and not just a few. So I'm very proud of the campaign we ran and the supporters that came on board.
So in answer to that question, yeah, I believe that the DNC played a major role in him losing his campaign.
So just to sum up here, these leaks, these emails, it hasn't given you any pause about your support for Hillary Clinton?
No. We are going to do everything that we can to protect working families in this country. And again, Chuck, I know media is not necessarily focused on these things, but what a campaign is about is not Hillary Clinton, it's not Donald Trump. It is the people of this country, people who are working longer hours for lower wages, people who do not have health care or are underinsured. Hillary Clinton and I worked together on a higher education proposal which will guarantee free tuition at public colleges and universities for every family in this country making $125,000 a year or less. We're going to fight for parental pay, family, and medical leave. Those are the issues that the American people want to hear discussed, and I'm going to go around the country discussing them and making sure that Hillary Clinton is elected president.
See, that's the difference between a guy who may have had some personal issues with his opponent, but is able to put his personal issues aside for the betterment of the country, versus you look at a Ted Cruz and he's 100% personal and also political. And even though I'm not a Trump supporter and I'm damn sure not a Cruz supporter, but Cruz showed his true colors as far as not really being able to get on board for the betterment of the people as far as he saw it in the country. Whereas you got Bernie Sanders, who absolutely is out there not for himself but for the people.
The Green Party presumptive nominee Jill Stein put out a release yesterday about the emails, and she said this: Democratic Party elites have been caught red-handed sabotaging a grassroots campaign that tried to bring huge numbers of young people, independents, and non-voters into their party. Instead, they have shown exactly why America needs a new major party, a truly Democratic Party for the people. Are you going to urge your supporters not to support Jill Stein and try to thwart her efforts to recruit your supporters?
Well, you know, let me just say this. As the longest-serving independent in the history of the United States Congress, as somebody who came into office by defeating an incumbent Democratic mayor in Burlington, Vermont, I know something about third-party politics, and I respect Jill. But right now, the focus, to my mind, is to make sure that Donald Trump does not become president of the United States. I think by temperament, he is unqualified to be president. I think his views, you have a guy who's running for president who rejects science, doesn't even believe climate change is real, let alone wants to do something about it, wants to give hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to the top 0.2% of 1%. So my job right now is to see that Donald Trump is defeated, Hillary Clinton is elected.
All right, as far as Jill Stein is concerned, and even the Libertarian Party, honestly, I think they got the right idea, but you can't start trying to do this in an election year. If they really are serious as far as really forming a party that's more so for the people, what they need to do is, after this election is completed, the entire election cycle is completed, starting January, right after the new president is sworn in, they need to start to form a new party, okay? And they need to start going after local elections. Instead of trying to grab the big prize, which is the presidency, they need to start organizing on the local level, work their way up to the state levels, okay? Then go after people in the House of Representatives, okay? So that when they do run for various governorships, the presidency, seats in the Senate, etc., they have a base, a power base in order to operate from. Yeah, Bernie Sanders was successful, okay, as far as his run, but he ran as a Democrat. He would have probably been just as successful in grabbing votes in a primary if you had all three of the parties or four of the parties, whichever, based on what he was saying. But for expediency, you need to be able, once you become president, coming from a third party, to have some kind of a power base inside of Congress, okay, and in the various state houses, governors and legislatures. It's all well and good for you to be an independent and become president of the United States, but then how do you govern? You have no power base either on the left or on the right. So all you're going to end up doing is compromising with everybody in order to try to get something done. It ain't going to work. You're going to need to be able to cobble together a sufficient power base in order to get legislation passed, okay? And you're not going to do that with no solid support from either the left or the right, or, as what I'm saying, a new party that has a 40% or so following within the various legislatures. And then all you need to do is pull another 5% from the left and another 5% from the right. You got 50% plus one, you can get something done.
You know, he makes a big deal out of the fact that you and he agree on one big issue, and that is trade deals, that these trade deals have been bad for the country. And he basically says that Clinton and Kaine, as a ticket, aren't, that their opposition, for instance, to TPP is sort of Johnny-come-lately, that it can't be trusted, and that Sanders supporters should support Trump if they care about trade. What do you say to that?
Well, I think in terms of who can be trusted, I think the evidence is clear that there has been no candidate that I have ever seen who lies more often than does Donald Trump. I mean, that's just not me saying it. That's what any independent media analysis has shown. So in terms of trust, you really can't trust a word, I think, that Mr. Trump has to say. In terms of the TPP, it is no secret. I think our trade policies for many, many years have been a disaster. They have benefited corporate America at the expense of working people. Secretary Clinton has come out in opposition to the TPP, does not want to see it appear in the lame duck Congress. That's my view as well.
You know, some of your supporters are disappointed in the pick of Tim Kaine, that he's not progressive enough. I know Tim Kaine called you after he was picked. Do you consider Tim Kaine a progressive, and are you happy with this pick?
Look, you know, the pick is Secretary Clinton's. I've known Tim Kaine for a number of years. We served in the Senate together, obviously. Tim is a very, very smart guy. He's a very nice guy. His political views are not my political views. He is more conservative than I am. Would I have preferred to see somebody like an Elizabeth Warren selected by Secretary Clinton? Yes, I would have.
And then finally, do you feel as if that you, when you got Glass-Steagall, I wanted to ask about this because it looks like the one thing that both parties may agree on in their platforms is being in favor of reinstating Glass-Steagall. Does this mean we will see that happen in the next Congress?
Well, I'm going to do everything that I can to make it happen. And, you know, when we talk about our campaign, one of the things that we have been able to do, Chuck, is create the most progressive Democratic platform in the history of the Democratic Party, and that includes breaking up the large Wall Street banks and reestablishing Glass-Steagall. I think the American people understand that we cannot continue to have a handful of reckless, irresponsible banks, often acting illegally, that something has to happen. They have to be broken up.
All right. Senator Bernie Sanders?
Yeah, I agree with that because there is no competition in the banking industry. You have 5 major banks that control 80% or more of the credit cards, 70% or more of the mortgages. They control a solid 60% or more of all checking accounts. Now, when Glass-Steagall was in place, there was a lot more competition. Does anybody remember when banks were offering free checking? Okay, do you remember when fees were reasonable? Okay, all that went by the wayside after they got rid of Glass-Steagall. All of a sudden, free checking accounts went the way of the dodo bird. Fees for things like return checks, wire transfers, anything other than a simple transaction, fees went through the roof. Okay? So now we need to get back to the point where banks were actually in competition for people's businesses. You know, both in your checking account business, because they make money on your checking account, and that's a known fact. Okay, the cost to manage a checking account is minimal. Most of the excuse me, transactions through checking accounts today are electronic. The day of writing paper checks is pretty much, I mean, it's still there, but it's pretty much out. Most people transact their business electronically. How much does it cost to transact something electronically? Next to nothing. Next to nothing. But yet and still, they want to charge, you know, like $25 a month, up to $50 a month for a checking account. They're just making money hand over fist. So we need to reinstate Glass-Steagall. They need to break up these big banks. They need to have our banking industry go back into competition with each other for our business, which would in fact lower fees, lower the costs that we incur on a monthly basis for banking, and that would more than likely help to, number one, protect the economy, and number two, stimulate the economy. Now, I recognize that interest rates are historically low right now. They are. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But these banks are still making money hand over fist, exorbitant interest rates. And they find all kinds of tricks and gimmicks in order to boost the amount of interest that you pay if you carry a balance. Some of these banks are charging like 27%, or more for you carrying a balance. When they advertise, how low their rates are, but they do funny things such as pulling your credit report consistently, and if you have paid somebody else, not them, late, but somebody else late, they want to jack your interest rates. They will pull out every trick in the book in order to boost fees, boost interest rates that you normally, don't really pay a lot of attention to, in order to boost their bottom lines. No, they need to be broken up, and they need to operate as a business that's in competition, lean and mean, which they are doing right now, because there used to be tons of people at various banking locations. Now you're lucky if you see 2 or 3. Again, everything is being done primarily on an electronic basis. Glass-Steagall needs to be reinstated, and we need to put our foot up these bankers' asses. And I still think that they should go back and prosecute all of those CEOs and CFOs of the major banks that really brought our economy to the brink of a major depression. But finally, Bernie Sanders took the high road. He's a man of his word. He's going to do what he needs to do in order to stop Trump. We need to salute him and support him.